once again, I want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. Tonight, we're going to be having a debate on current issues. And we have two persons who are going to be debating. But first, let me welcome my guest co-host, Mr. Asoni Sie. Mr. Sie, welcome to Focus on Liberia. And congratulations on your debut as a guest co-host on Focus on Liberia.
Dennis, thank you. It is my pleasure joining you as a guest co-host on Focus on Liberia. I look forward to a very good conversation with these two gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have two gentlemen from Connecticut. That's the president of the Liberian community in Connecticut, Mr. Wilton Ketter. Mr. Ketter, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Brother Dennis. Thank you for having me.
And Mr. Ketter will be debating with two-time EULA secretary, who is outgoing secretary, and from the state of Maryland, Mr. Arthur Do. Mr. Do, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Jai. I'm happy to be part of this discussion tonight. And we are ready to provide our contribution to this platform. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. The debate we're going to be having tonight is on current issues that are going on in Liberia. And what we're going to do is we're going to state the issue. We let our two panelists give their view where they stand. And if there are some disagreement, they're going to come back with rebuttal and question to the other party. So, I will bring in my guest co-host to just give us a preview of the show and tell us some of the issues that we're going to be discussing. Mr. Sie.
Thank you, Dennis. And I also want to take this time to welcome our listeners and to officially welcome our guests. On today's show, we have three major national issues for which we have brought these two gentlemen to discuss. The first one will be the closure of Root FM and the seizure of its broadcast equipment. We will be looking at that national issue that is trending right now in the homeland. The second issue we will be discussing will be Justina Taylor's revelation, whether there is any truth in all that she said, and the role that Herring Costa also played with the entire saga with Justina Taylor. And the last issue we will be discussing, or topic we'll be discussing, will be dual citizenship. As you well know, dual citizenship now is a hot issue in the Liberian community. We will also go into that. And so, gentlemen, we say welcome, and we know we're going to get the best out of you. So those are the issues. Stay tuned. Dennis, it's over to you.
And in the middle of the broadcast, at the end of the issue on the closure of the Roots FM, we're going to bring in a seasoned lawyer who practiced law both in Liberia and here. Councillor Frederick Jewe is going to break that down to us, what all the implication, what is contained in that rate of seizure and the rate of to search and seize.
Yeah.
Search and seizure. You're gonna break that down, and later on in the broadcast, we're gonna bring on our West African correspondent to give us some news rundown from West Africa. So, gentlemen, let's go into it. From the news, we saw that, and we saw the video footage of Roots FM being closed down and its equipment being seized by the government of Liberia. I start with you, Mr. Wilton Ketter, to give me your view on that whole scenario playing out with Roots FM, its owner or host, Mr. Henry Costa, and the government of Liberia.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ja, once more. It is important that Liberians start to understand that we have experienced 14 years of civil war, and our peace should be protected jealously. We have seen over the years, people use the airway to incite violence in Liberia. people use the airwaves to use foul languages in Liberia. And in recent time, we heard the information minister come on Ajita High Talk and talk about Henry Costa radio station not being registered. It was a couple of months ago. And with a continual provocation or incitement of violence, the international community, EU, AU, and the African Union, it came out and condemned it. Yola came and condemned it that nobody should incite violence in Liberia because our peace, is fragile. Unfortunately, that didn't resonate with the Root FM family, especially owner Henry Costa. He continues to preach the message of hate and incitement of violence and all that. It was clearly seen a few weeks back when he put people on the street sitting in his comfort of his living room in the United States, asking people to come on the streets and in the name of protecting one Justina Taylor. And police officers were wounded in the process. Property was damaged, both government and private. I say private because the Cali Hospital fence, if you watch the video footage, you will see the guys were using stones to break the walls of the fence of the Cali Hospital. And also concrete slabs and pavement were removed from the streets and placed on the side of the street and placed in the middle of the road, blocking people movement, free movement. So it would have gotten out of hand that day. And so I think in my own, thinking, the government said, it's enough is enough. So with this man not operating, a legal radio station in Liberia, but using the airwave to incite violence, the government asked the court, went to the court, and the court ordered closure of his radio station, search and seizure of his property. And even as that, he was defiant. He put people on the streets to go to his own. You can hear him on his podcast instructing his followers to go to the radio station and defend, barricade the place, and do whatever to prevent the radio station from being closed down. And I think the government did a professional job when in there and executed the order according to the court.
Thank you, Mr. Doe. And Wilton, maybe you can turn off your light now because the place is getting completely dark.
Okay, let me just turn it on now.
Mr. Doe, where are you?
Mr. John?
Yes, sir. Okay, now we get you. Go ahead. Your take. What's your view on the closure of Roots FM and the seizure of its equipment?
Mr. John, thank you once more to have me on your platform. Going straight to the issue of the closure of Root FM. Mr. John, you see, we have a government in place, and we have the only way we get information from our government, from the people, from businesses is when we get it from the news outlets, including Root FM. There are certain laws that are surrounding the establishment, the registration of businesses, and I think we supposed to be responsible citizens and respect the rules governing businesses, the registration of businesses. I don't want to dwell on assumptions, but from the past, what I've been hearing is that the Root FM have been asked to register its business. Up to the closure, the business was not registered based on information that we received. But there are laws that are on the books, most especially our constitution called for press freedom and the freedom of speech, free speech. And when the president go to the extent to decriminalize free speech, I know definitely there are no law that is above the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia, and the Constitution too make it crystal clear in Article 15. It says every person shall have the right to freedom of expression. Well, that right, that person should be responsible for his of that freedom of expression. The Constitution is above any law in the country. So with the closure of Root FM and also with the kind of pronouncement that are coming from Root FM, a kind of interplay with 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 instituting the law. There are several things that are in play right now. Either you register your business and play it right and don't talk, or you continue to talk, and if you don't register your business, they go after you and see that your registration is not in place. Of course, you will be the victim. So this is what happened with respect to the closure of Root FM. Because I love the brother, and see, but you don't use a media outlet. You don't use a radio station because it is a man who has a whole lot of followers. So if you're using a radio station that is first of all that register, and then you sending out the messages that will be inciting people, including saying that if anybody go to your radio station, you carry guns there. Those are things that some of us is not, we are not comfortable. That's why the fact that we know that there is freedom of speech, freedom of expression. You see, so the process for which the Root FM was closed, if the due process was afforded him, as I learned that the FM management was served from the court, and the officer sheriff took the writ to there, and then the guy refused to accept it. Where I live, to refuse to accept an order, it means that it will force you in the car to carry it somewhere. And, you know, so I don't think it was proper, just by the fact that all of those things going on in the country, for the Root FM to refuse to accept a rate from a certain government. It was not proper at all. And it spilled over to the Justinian issue, you know.
And we'll come to the Justinian issue, but let me stop you and bring in our, and let's say, tell our audience that welcome to Focus on Liberia. We are discussing these trending issues. This is part 2 of the debate. The last time we had a debate between our two panelists. So this is a continuation because the issues are still hot. So let me go to you, Mr. Sia, if you have questions for either of the panelists.
All right, thank you, Dennis. I listened to Mr. Wilton Ketter, and he said that the government did a professional job in moving in. But from the footage that we all watched, what we saw was a government using force, that is other people observation. And so when he said that the government acted professionally, I would like for him to state quite clearly what are the things that they did that constitute what he termed as professional. And I want him to also explain about one general power we gathered from media report was also at the scene. Is General Power now working with the government to have been seen at the scene? Mr. Ketter, that would be your question.
Well, thank you, my brother. First of all, we saw the Liberian government doing a professional job. The government went through the court system. The court issue a writ. The writ, any court issue or writ, the sheriff will serve you the writ, and you got to be compliant with the law, and so the government, according to the writ, the what was in the writ is exactly what the officers did, and you saw nobody was flogged. What they went actually to do is to search and seize the property of Root FM, and they did that without anybody getting hurt directly from the people that was sent by the government. So I call it professional. We didn't see any Roof FM official workers, manhandle. We didn't see all that, even though they were provoked from the Root FM owner inciting people to go against the police. If you're listening to the audio or his podcast, he said, and it was clear incitement that the citizen, turned on the police. The citizen, are on the police, pushing the police back from the place. And we saw people coming to the extent we saw people putting like stones, 1 or 2 stones on the streets. So yet all that, nobody will ever flock by the police. The police did exactly. The reason why the police bus used force to enter Root FM is because when they arrived, the sheriff arrived at the scene. Henry Costa is also, on his podcast instructing his co-host, Fidel, to lock the door, put chairs behind the door, barricade the door so that the sheriff wouldn't enter and define them. So who defies government authority? And so the government had to do what the court order to do. And I don't see anything not professional about it. It was all done professionally.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Doe on the seizure. Okay, if the issue is license, why take the equipment away? That's what people are asking.
If the issue about licensing, and the question you asked is why take the equipment away? The equipment is being used. The equipment is being used to spread the propaganda. As Wilton already said, and as we watch and we witness with our in the war in Yucatan, we saw a lot of bombs going over Yucatan, hitting different spots, hitting citizen spots and killing. Those instructions from their commanders. So when Costa is on the radio, giving instruction. I mean, it is no different. I see it no different. You don't want to obey the law, you see, and then giving instruction, live instruction, and that alone will trigger anything to force for seizure of the equipment by law enforcement officer as well as to keep stability in the country. The government is under the obligation to keep the nation safe. So it shall do everything possible to making sure citizens and businesses as well are well protected and citizens are safe from any further of confusion or any disruption of businesses in the country. You see, Mr. Jah, here's the problem. We have been following through with respect to the crisis in our country. We know things are very difficult, but incitement. I can remember when our attorney Eliu, it is the students themselves who, if they go and gather somewhere, nobody incited us. We did our things right on the campus, But for a library, we are in different circumstances as we speak. So, but for somebody to be on the radio live, I just like, I was in the borough of Nukuta when the bomb was flying from Duka to Nukuta to hit targets of will be enemy. Those who were the targets. Civilians were targets. You couldn't distinguish between your enemy and peaceful civilian. So when somebody is on the telephone on the podcast giving instruction, that should be the concern of all Liberians in the country. So that will trigger seizure of that particular equipment, that those things were going on live. And so it was the right of the government to save the state.
Go ahead, Mr. Sia.
Mr. Doe, I just listened to you, and you were trying to talk about the seizure I know the rate that came from the court talk about closure and seizure of all the equipment. Would it have been better had the government served a public notice to this institution, knowing that the institution is a very popular institution, and the person in question, Herring Costard, is also a popular person? Would it have helped, in your opinion, if the government has put a notice in the newspaper or on a radio station that this station, effective this day, if you don't pay if you don't register your institution, then you will be closed starting from this day? You think if the government has done it that way, it would have put the government in a much better position? Because I think the object now is that this is a government that is using force on a registered business. And because if the man is behind in registration, why not just fine him? And the other piece is that very recently, Telia Yure business was also moved on by the government, and Telia Yure having to be opposition. Costa is an opposition member. He's with the 29 Yure party. So there are two opposition individual businesses now being quote unquote moved on by the government. People would think that the government is targeting opposition businesses. Don't you think if they have done it that way, as I explained earlier, if we have made the government to look much more better and professional?
Thank you so much. Here's the situation. Before an event is held, there is a process leading to that eventual event. So I can't speak for the government, but what I do know is that before certain thing takes place, it should start from somewhere, and then you follow the process, and then at the end, you implement the whatsoever that you may have. So it might be because the registration of Costa's business is not during the time they close the business. It has been something that has been said over and over and over again that Costa has not registered his business. So if I were the one in the shoes of Costa, knowing further well that I'm a powerhouse, let me put the government in a position that indeed it is not only that I did register my business. This is why they came. So I'm going to register my business. And, so last year we talked about registration of business. Costa did not do it. This year we've been hearing that Costa business has not been registered.
Mr. Doe.
Up to the time they close the business. I don't know the process of the government, but what I do know is I heard a lie and I continually heard it this year leading to the closure of the business. Has Costa done that? Of course. So when you're talking about public notice in the Liberian setting, I think the court has a process and the government has a process of instituting and implementing all kinds of stuff, But I don't think it is just like you issue it immediately today and the action takes place. So what you just said, if government did not make it known to Costa that your business has not been registered, if Adonai who is way here in the United States have not heard that Costa business has not been registered, okay, and then Costa business is closed, properties have been seized.
Mr. Doe.
Costa should be blamed for whatsoever. Take more especially in adding up.
Mr. Doe.
Yeah.
Let me call you to a point right there. The closing the business had to do with the license. But if you see that the rate that was issued was search and seize, so it means the issue with seizing the equipment had to do with the incitement of violence and all the things that they listed. If that being the case, what people are saying now is, why now? This station has operated.
Why now? Because it is appropriate time.
Right.
Why now? Because it is the appropriate time.
what I'm saying, what I'm coming to is the update is at the time Costa was in your corner, none of these things happened. But now, because whatever deal they have broke down, this is why they're moving on. And if you are citing or inciting people has the reason for that. Okay, when did you start hearing that? And what were the legal process that you follow before coming to that point?
Again, Mr. Jai, again, I don't speak for the government. It is my own opinion that I'm talking of, speaking of. So the fact that Costa was told whether there was a sweetheart deal between the government and Costa, it is their business. But for me, I am concerned about the stability of the state. I want for the state to be safe. So in order for the state to be safe, government is supposed to take action. And in order for the state to be safe, we have to either reduce or do whatever with this incitement. We have to do with it. So if that deal failed, I know we are not responsible. Is that responsible for that deal to be failed? It is time for government to take action. That's why they are taking action. You see? So I don't want to look at the deal that was portrayed between the government and Costa. Okay? If the government failed the deal or Costa failed the deal, I don't know what they're discussing in that little room. What I'm concerned about is the bigger picture. That is to disturb the peace of. You know what it means when your family calling you from Liberia and telling you, say the people want to bring war again, they want to bring war again.
Thank you, Mr. Doe.
From that perspective.
Yeah, thank you. I want to bring in Mr. Ketter, but before that, I want to announce to our viewing audience, you can now join the conversation. The number is posted on Facebook, or that you can call. Sorry, I posted probably posted the wrong number. But the number is posted on Facebook is, let me call it 712-770-8002. And the code is 229545. But before we continue, we have Councillor Frederick Jewett on the line, who is going to lay out for us, the legal piece of this whole argument. And I want our callers to get ready to call and ask questions about this. Please, Councillor Jewett, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Oh, sorry. Let's go Wilton before I bring in Councillor Jewett. Wilton.
Yes.
The thing about it is people are beginning to say this government is only doing this to go after our political enemies, because some time ago, Costa operated 10 months with this no license, but because they were talking in favor of the government, nothing was done. Now we see this happen. What's your defense?
Well, it doesn't matter whether Costa, chose to talk on behalf of the government. What is important, like Arthur Dose, is preserving our peace, protecting our peace with everything we have. And the brother asked a question about Costa popularity, and the government should have reached out to him. Look, I don't care how big a person is, he's not bigger than the law. The law has to take its course. Costa popularity will not change the action of our constitution. And what is important to our country and to us is to see that our people live freely. Look, Brother Ja, my aunt just had to leave Liberia, not willingly. She came just here and she called me and told me, look, Wilton, I have to leave because of the commotion from the election in District 15. There's the tension. She couldn't stand the tension. She had to leave. And she's like almost in her 80s, to have to come here and stay. Other people here call and say, look, when they see this kind of thing happening, it's like the pressure go up. So what happened here is we have to protect the peace. It's not about any kind of big person, how big his platform is. So we should compromise our law in Liberia. I think the government did an excellent job. The people will speak. The people will say, oh, by now. Liberian people always ask the question. But let's ask ourselves. So we should wait until everything blow out of proportion before we take action? I see a no. Let it rest the situation before it turns into a full-blown, crisis. And that's exactly what the government did. And I think we should be applauding this government for what the action the government took. Now we see that according to the Solicitor General, before any protest occur in the country, it has to come from his office, has to be approved, and they will designate a special area. Remember, Brother Dennis, the protest action in Liberia is not only crippling the people movement in the country, it also depriving Liberian people from getting job opportunity, because if investors see that the country continuously having protests and political instability, who will want to invest their money in our country? Then the same opposition crying that the government is not creating jobs for people. So you can't have it both ways.
Thank you, Mr. Ketter. Let me bring in Councilor Frederick Jewell, someone who knows a thing or two about law. He practiced law both in Liberia and here in the States. Councilor Jewell, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Hi, everyone.
Good. Let me see if
you want me to address the search warrant issue?
Yes, please. The search and where all this coming. What is the legal process? Should they go to court first and Costa get represented by a lawyer? What really should speak to us about this raid, search and seizure, and whether everything that you see on TV and you heard was done legally or not?
Well, let me first address what is search and seizure and when may it be issued. What are the elements and the processes that may come into play for a search warrant or search and seizure to be issued? Simply, to the raid itself is to search for and find items that the government of Liberia may consider items used to commit a crime or illicit items. So a search warrant may be issued when the government thinks that a crime has been committed or is about to be committed. And so the government, in order to preempt a crime that is to be committed or is being committed, can issue a search warrant and have it issued, have it served rather on a particular place, a place that is described, or an individual that is named, and items that the government purports to be used to commit a crime can be seized and taken to a court of competent jurisdiction. In the case of Liberia, the current situation in Monrovia, the Solicitor General went to the Monrovia City Court. That's what he said. That is what is in the newspaper, and obtained a search and seizure warrant or a writ for search and seizure, and proceeded to the premises of Roots FM, run by Mr. Costa. And my understanding is that the writ was issued, served, and items were taken away from the premises or the office of Mr. Costa and taken to the court. Some the newspapers say that the warrant was issued during the early part of the morning. And so there are questions as to whether, and then I also saw in the front page that there's a story that said human beings commit crime and instruments or items do not commit crimes. And so the question is whether the warrant was issued consistent with law. There are certain elements that must come into play. In fact, this whole idea of a search warrant is covered by Section 11.1 to 11.10 of the Criminal Procedure Law, Liberian Code of Law Revised. It describes the process, procedure, and elements that may constitute a warrant. For a warrant to be issued, it must be issued upon an affidavit or a written complaint sworn to before a magistrate or justice of the peace. And if the magistrate is certified or the justice of the peace is certified that the grounds for the issuance of the warrant is established, then the magistrate may order, or there's a probability, of course, that a crime is being committed. The magistrate or justice of the peace may order the raid, the warrant issue, the property to be searched, the place to be searched, named, described, the person to be searched, named, and the items to be searched for, described, and named in a warrant. Without a written affidavit or a complaint sworn to and the magistrate being certified, a warrant that is issued for a written complaint or an affidavit will be considered an illegal warrant. In this case, we understand the Solicitor General went to the magisterial court, Manila City Court, and got a warrant, and the premises of Mr. Costa were searched. The question is, did the governor, like you, follow all of the elements that constitute, was there a written complaint and sworn to by whom? And did the magistrate at the Manila City Court consider the complaint to be sufficient? And was he certified to order the raid issue? The magistrate did issue the raid was served, and items were taken from the premises. In order to determine whether there was an actual written complaint, a practicing lawyer, not just any lawyer, a practicing lawyer who is a criminal lawyer, may have to proceed to the magistrate, the Manila City Court, and representing Mr. Costa, if he or she is representing him, announce himself to the clerk of court and ask to review the file of the court to determine whether there was a written affidavit or there was a written complaint on the file and what the complaint looks like. The items that were searched for were they described in the complaint. And when the officers from the Manila City Court went to Mr. Costa's premises, did they announce themselves as coming from the Manila City Court and had a search warrant in their hand and was there to serve it on the property or premises of Mr. Costa? And if they did the occupant at the time agree or accept to grant the officer admittance to the property or the premises, entrance to the premises? If the answer is yes, then the officers will proceed to enter the premises without breaking down the doors or the window to be able to enter and get the items. If the answer is no, if the people, the journalists or whoever were there, or the occupant or the property owner, Mr. Costa staff, refuse to allow the officer in after the officer has identified themselves and saying they were there to search a warrant, to search the property with a search warrant, then the officer in that manner and in that case had the right to break down the door and even they arrest people in there and get to do the search. On a normal condition, a copy of the search warrant, meaning the premises, people occupying the premises, acknowledge the notice that a warrant was to be served on the Costa premises, and allow the officer in without refusing for the officer to get in. The officer would then give a copy of the warrant, a duplicate copy of the warrant, to the occupants or the people who are working at that property. And then the officer will proceed, officers will proceed to follow the description, the action described on the face of the rape, to search for them and take them over to the Manila City Court.
Councillor
I understand the actions were taken. Yes.
You made reference to a crime. I don't think not having a valid license will constitute a crime that will prompt search and seizure. If the issue is crime, what is the crime that we're talking about here?
Well, the government said, I have not seen the complaint. I've read from Daily Observer and read from what you call them, the public trust media group. I also read from Front Page that the government is charging so many things in the warrant, in the written complaint. The government is saying that Costa and his group have not paid their taxes. So that's a tax matter. The government is also saying that Mr. Costa and those who work for him, broadcasters, have been using the radio station to incite the Republic of Liberia, people within the Republic of Liberia. That's a crime. Incitement is a crime under the criminal procedure law and under the substantive criminal law. The government also claiming that Mr. Costa at some point said that he will use arms to prevent people from entering his premises. And of late, the government is saying that Mr. Costa has started to announce that on the 31st of December 2019, there will be a demonstration to ask President Weah to step down, and the demonstration will continue until President Weah steps down and leaves the country. That could be treason or sedition. The historical setting and the content of the broadcast of Mr. Costa, if the government determines that inciting people to protest, for example, asking people to take onto the street, delivering messages that may cause security unrest and insecurity of a breach of the peace. Those are all crimes. The non-registration or the licensing of the station, that's a civil matter. But the question is not, it's one of those things the government named. So it will not be the sole ground for shutting down doing such and such on the property, taking away the properties that are there. The government is saying that the instruments are used to commit hate crimes and hate messages. And it's also used to incite people, as well as it is
Councillor
used
Joel,
yes.
Councillor, is the government correct?
What the government is alleging, it cannot be established that the government is correct unless the matter want to quote and the government produce evidence that Mr. Tips or Mr. Costa, that his broadcast messages have been incitement, have been used as incitement. His statements have crossed the line. For example, if you ask a sitting elected president to resign, you will commit yourself to protest, and the people of Liberia to protest and the president resign and leave the country, you're committing an act of treason. Or the government could charge you for sedition. Again, this is, and those are allegations until the matter go to court and proofs are established.
So my question there is, based on those allegations, you can search and you can see. And also, and also, what's about your capacity of doing it? Because anyone can say that. I can sit in my own bedroom without even a cup of rice to eat, and I say, oh, I want the government to calm down. Does that constitute incitement, sedition, the rest of it?
But no, incitement includes trying to get not only you alone. You if you took notice of the June 7, 2019 demonstration, considerable number of Liberian people came out there, and it was to say that corruption, other things going on into the country. So Mr. Costa and his station, along with people who associate with him, have been able to successfully get more than 10,000 Liberians in Liberia on the street. And some people say 20, some people say 25,000. Mr. Costa, he says 50,000 people on the street. I don't know whether that's true or not. But that's what he said in some of his broadcast messages. If you can get people of such number onto the street to contest and demand that the president of Liberia who was elected, whether it's Weah, whoever it is, was elected to calm down, and if they don't calm down or step down as president and be kicked out of the country until they leave, demonstration will continue to go on. It could be a threat to national peace and security. And the government could determine that whosoever has Mr. Costa who is saying that is inciting the people of Liberia to overthrow the government, and that could be treason. Treason is a first-degree felony. If no one dies as a result of committing the act of treason, the imprisonment period could be 20 years. If someone dies as a result of properties are destroyed as a result of the indictment, it could be 20 or more years.
Thank you.
Councilor, let me jump in there a little bit. I just listened to you. You're talking about treason. If anyone can call for any mass demonstration of that nature that Costa is talking about, one that was also held on June 7 this year, usually a permit is obtained. In this one, he's also communicating that a permit will be obtained. So if the permit is obtained and the people gather in the street, we know that that is the constitutional right of the citizens to assemble at any time. The Constitution said at any time, if they so desire. And the Constitution went further by saying that the people, power is inherent in the people. And if they feel that safety is not guaranteed, if they are not happy, they have the right to alter the government. So we are talking about the Constitution you are giving Costa and other individuals who support Costa the constitutional right to act in the manner in which he has described. They done it on June 7. It was peaceful, nothing happened. Yeah, you are right. This time he's saying there will be consistent protests until the government calms down. So looking at the constitutional clauses that I just referenced, how does that still constitute a treason?
Well, coming onto the street to demonstrate is not treason. The idea of demonstrating and demanding that the president of the elected president, whether it's we or whoever is in power, should step down, or else the demonstration will be continued. In itself, even though a permit was obtained, you cross the line when you ask the sitting president or a sitting government to resign, or you will continue to keep the people on the street. The Liberian people who are demonstrating may be demonstrating out of clear understanding that their rights have been violated and they have the right to demonstrate. They may not understand the intricacy of standing out on the street and asking an elected government to resign, and that they will remain on the street. So if you were to do that, as Mr. Costa is saying, then the question is not everyone who is demonstrating who may be in the demonstration, but the people who plan the demonstration and executing the plan that the president of Liberia, when elected, should step down. That in itself, it doesn't support your right to demonstrate and your right to demand change. You have the right to demand change. You're talking about alter the Constitution says alter that government. I don't know what the understanding of alter the government means. To some people, altering the government means that the government should resign and everybody get out of there, or they force the government out of power. It means going to the election box. The intent and the draft of the Constitution did not mean that the Liberian people should go on the street and demand their president or government to shut down and dictate the democratic states. And if not, they will remain on the street. They were not talking about making war to remove the government. They were not talking about demonstrating to demand the government to step down. If you can do that, the problem would be you will be either close to breaching your right to demonstrate, and you'll be close to violating the very Constitution that supports you.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing and debating some current issues going on in the country, one of which is the closure of Roots FM. And if you want to join the discussion, we have the number posted to call. That is 712-770-8002. The code is 229545. Again, 229545. Join the discussion and let's discuss the closure of Roots FM.
Mr. Dennis, I just wanted to add, I thought it was premature to see Liberians and writing and condemning what was done. the search and seizure, the way it was executed, the manner in which it was executed, the actions that were taken from there. This includes the major political parties in Liberia. What is unfortunate is that those who came out and began to say that the government is right or wrong, you first need to be, I submit that you need to be a lawyer that understands the process, a criminal lawyer that understands the process. I submit that you also need to go to the court and follow up the file and see what are the actions that are on the file. Did the government follow the process as the law laid down? Did the content of the search warrant describe specifically that we're going to search the premises of Mr. Costa? If the search warrant did that, did the search warrant also describe the property that was to be searched for? If the search warrant did that, were the officer allowed to enter the premises peacefully? If the officers were not allowed, then the officer had the right to break down the doors and enter there. The other question is what time of the day or night a search warrant may be issued. A search warrant may be issued during a reasonable time of the day or in the night. If the government proposed that or believes that a crime is being committed, the government can execute a warrant in the night. It can be in the day, it can be in the night. If the warrant is properly issued, if you read section 11.1 to 11.10, you will see that the property seized cannot be suppressed and returned. The only way you can say the process is wrong is when you go to the court and review the file and see what are the documents on the file and what are the steps that govern search and seizure were followed. I don't know whether they were followed. I'm not a lawyer for Costa.
Mr. Councillor Jewel, so what happens if Costa goes to court and the court determines that the government actions were illegal? What happens?
Well, then the search and seizure procedure, section 11.10 of the criminal procedure law will come into play. What that is that the Costa and his lawyer will be allowed by law to proceed to file a motion to suppress and return the property in question. I guess the next question will be if the magistrate, if Costa and his lawyer make the case and the magistrate disagree with that, what is the next step? The next step will be to file an appeal against the ruling of the magistrate to the circuit court. If the circuit court, meaning any of the criminal courts, it could be court A, could B, could on to court E. If those courts refuse to sustain Costa's position, then they appeal to the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
And again, I just wanted to make clear the fact that the warrant was issued at night doesn't automatically make it illegal.
All right. Thank you, Councillor. Before we take leave of you, I have one more question. Now that we have this situation and Liberians, like you said, especially people in the opposition bloc, they should go to the court and try to find out whether things were done legally. Other people are saying, where is the due process? Some people are saying that maybe Costa should have been sued and sent to court, but that is not the case. But the court has given order for the station to be closed and for the equipment to be seized. So the way it has been done already, does that still constitute a due process?
You know, I read from the ANC Secretary General, who I believe is a lawyer, wrote and raised the question of due process.
Yeah.
I also read other publications on Front Page, Daily Observer, the Public Trust Media Group, and other newspapers from Liberia. And there are real questions that due process of law was not followed. People who are saying that may not understand what due process of law is. Okay. Due process of law, it does not only include, and maybe let me go further by adding, you said Mr. Costa should have been arrested. and given his day in court before the premises is closed or were closed. Now, I understand the government of Liberia, the Solicitor General said there is a writ of arrest out for Mr. Costa right now. As we speak, there's a writ of arrest out for Mr. Costa as we speak. That's what the Solicitor General said and was published in Daily Observer and other newspapers. So what happened with the search warrant being issued is a procedural process. It is a process that encourages due process of law to have the meaning that there must be a written complaint describing a place to be searched, describing the items to be searched, naming those items, the officers going out and going to serve the warrant, the officer informing the occupants of Mr. Costa's office that we are here to search and seize items in this place, the officer being allowed or not allowed to go in there. If they were not allowed, they had the right to break down the door and enter in there and take over the items. The officers were supposed to be able, if they were allowed peacefully, they were supposed to give a copy of the warrant to those who are working for Mr. Costa in his property, in his office, in his radio station, and also a receipt of all the items that the officers were taking, having searched for and had in their possession, were taken from there to the Monrovia City Court. Even at that level, and that is a due process, part of the due process. They were not just going, police didn't just go in there to hijack the stuff and start taking it out of there. I understand they had a search warrant. So the process of the due process started with the issuing of a search warrant from a court of competent jurisdiction. I understand the Monrovia City Court is jurisdiction encompasses Ashmore Street where the search warrant went on. It's not across the bridge. If you went across the bridge, it will be in Newtown by the Silver Court. It is not within the West Point jurisdiction. If you were down Waterside going on towards the Old Bridge, I think Slipway and all the places would be the West Point jurisdiction. But in Central Monrovia to where Mr. Costa was arrested, it is part of the jurisdiction of the Monrovia City Court. I understand the actions were taken to the Monrovia City Court after I understand there was confusion there. The Costa people refused. That's how the door was broken down. And I think where there is confusion, there is no possibility for the officer to leave a copy of the search warrant with those who occupy the property. I also understand Mr. Costa instructed his people that whenever a raid or whatever paper come to this office, when you receive it, tear it up. I don't know whether that is true. I read that one in one of the newspapers. And if you instruct people like that who work for you when there is a raid, you have just given up your due process while the search warrant is going on. The due process portion will start when a trial starts. When the fact that a search warrant is issued, the fact that items are taken over from the Costa premises and over to the Monrovia City Court, it does not violate his right at all, unless you can establish that all of the steps, the items were not described, there were no written complaints. The items were the no notice of the warrant was served on Costa people, and the door was broken down by force. Mind you, a search and seizure must operate in secrecy. The other one, when the search warrant is about to be issued, the people on whom it is due to be issued will not be known. The public will not know so until the search is executed. And if the process is what Mr. Costa and others who are affected by this need to do is to hire a lawyer to proceed to go to hire not only a lawyer, but hire a criminal lawyer who is a practicing lawyer to go to the magistrate court to see what are the items that were seized. Up to this point, have the court officers submitted or filed a return? In other words, itemize those things that were taken from Costa premises and inventory taken. In fact, the law provides that the inventory be taken in the presence of Mr. Costa or officials that work for Mr. Costa, along with officials of the government of Liberia, maybe the Attorney General, the Solicitor General, and the prosecutor. Do they have lawyers? And if Costa have lawyers, what are they doing at this point? Are they preparing to go to the court and inspect the file? If they are not, the political talking wouldn't help. The discussion on the street wouldn't help. The feeling people may have that the process is not legal or illegal wouldn't help. Go to the court. Once the trial of the search warrant starts, the lawyer for Mr. Costa can raise all of the issues. Section 11.6 lay out how the warrant can be.
And Councillor, if there are damages done in the process of the closure and seizure, if there are damages done to the facility and the equipment, who will be responsible for that? Would that be on Costa? Because assuming that
let me ask. The fact that Mr. Costa may not, Mr. Costa employees did not allow or did not get entrance, did not permit the officer to enter the premises to do the search, doesn't give the officer the right to take those recklessly, take those items from Mr. Costa's office to the court by any other means to damage them. So there is liability.
Okay.
There could be liability on the part of the government, like if the officer behaved recklessly, even though they broke, I understand they broke in the door to get in. That means that when they went to serve the warrant, they were refused. The people refused. The postal employee refused to take the warrant, and so they were also not granted entrance. So they broke down the door to get in there. But when you get in there, you have to be responsible. That the applicants are taking in a very reserved and protected way. If not, the government will be responsible.
Councillor, we sincerely want to thank you for your expert opinion. I think you gave us a lot, and even our guests yet, they are informed. We ourselves are informed, and our audience also got very good information. I'm glad you were able to go into detail on the due process, because that was one of the arguments that was going around. We want to thank you. We here at Focus on Liberia will always reach out to you if we have any topic that have legal aspects. We want to say thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
And Councillor, before you go, because there are people been trying to call. So if you are, and I don't know if they are having trouble with the number, but the number is posted as a conference line, so you can call the number. If you are not able to get through and you are calling the number, please let us know so we can find an alternative. But the number is 712-770-8002. The code is 229545. Some people, when they call because of their plan, they will say they will charge you 1 cent per minute. Yeah, let them charge you 1 cent per minute. You talk for 2 minutes, you put 2 cents. So I'm not saying it's not a big money, but I've been calling it. I don't see on that 1 cent on my bill, but I don't know if you have
every penny counts.
People might run away for that though.
Yeah. So if that's the issue, please let us know if that's the issue because I saw people trying to call me directly. Okay, we have a caller. We have a caller on the line. So Councillor, stay on the line. Maybe the call is for you. Okay. The question is for you. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
My name is Patrick Soa, and I call you from South Dakota.
Mr. Soa, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your question or comment, please.
Thank you. I'm going to make a comment. There's something I want to make clear. I listened to the guest before the councillor, and this has been one of the points a lot of us stressed in Liberia. The right to assemble, is a constitutional right. There's something I want to mention there. The right to peacefully assemble, it is a fundamental right. I agree. But whenever that right inconveniences, whenever that right threatens another man's right, or whenever that right threatens the security of the state, the government got the right to come in to stop that process. But many a time we will just quote the right to assemble peacefully is a fundamental right, is our constitutional right. We agree it's constitutional. But whenever in the process you assemble and your assembly is not peaceful, the government got the right to come in. Second point is this. I'm not hearing many people talking about the gas, because the rate, according to what I read from the newspaper, the rate was rejected at a group of supporters, alleged supporters from Costa, saying of Costa, decided to interfere with the order of the court. I condemn that strongly. In a modern society, I don't think it's necessary at any point in time, whether you disagree or agree, we must respect the order of the court. I don't think it was necessary for a group of Liberians to interfere with the working or the order of the court. That was not right in my mind, and we should not encourage that. If you think that the order or the seizure and order process was wrong, go to court.
Thank you.
Fair point.
Thank you, Mr. Suwa. Let me bring on our next caller. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
My name is Amos George, calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Mr. George, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your question or comment?
Yeah, both questions and comment. Thank you, John. What I want to, the first thing I want to ask is that the government, when the government got to know that Mr. Costa's business was not registered, because from what I understand, the government was doing business with Mr. Costa.
Yeah.
They asked him to promulgate the message. And if the government knew that this business was not registered, why would they enter into a deal with this business? The next thing is, don't you think that the government should also be, the Liberian government should charge the real government for the foreigner of revenue? Because they said the innocence of the law does not excuse nobody. So they knew that this meant this one, but the
line muted
business with him. And after the federal part, that when they decided to go after him. So my issue is, do the Liberian people ask the government to pay them taxes due because they knew went into deal with this man when they knew the business was not registered? Then the second question has to do with this. I heard today the Solicitor General saying that they will not allow anybody to use profanity on government officials, using abuses word on government officials.
Yeah.
But my question is, when that came to being, or when that the Solicitor General today see that the peace of the state being threatened by people who they have problem with. My question comes from the backdrop that when Jefferson Kochi, who is the city mayor of Liberia, second city mayor, have a press conference and said that they will move on people who assemble and flesh and blood will waste. That statement, don't you think that it has the potential to undermine the peace of Liberia when a certain government official is saying that? Did the Solicitor General ever call the mayor into question? When the chairman of the ruling party says that he has credible information that people want to assassinate the president, and the president confirmed that, did the Solicitor General ever call those people to question them?
Thank you, Mr.
So it brings to the point that it's a double standard, certain law for a certain group of people and certain law for other group of people. And the last one I want to say is that the Solicitor General in the last press conference said that if you are not for the government, then you are against them, and they will come after you. Is he saying that everybody in Liberia supposed to support the government, or if you don't do that, then you are enemy? What his statement meant? Can you help me to unfold it? Thank you.
Brother Dennis, can I just answer the guy's last question?
Yeah, that's Mr. Josh.
Mr. George, last thing. The Solicitor General did not say if you're not for us, you're against us. The Solicitor General specifically said people within the government, people within the employ of the government, the people that George Weah himself employed to work in his government.
Yeah.
If you can't work in the interest of the government, then you're against them, then you're supposed to leave. You are not referring to the citizen in general, because you have some people in government who have been paid by taxpayer, employed by this president, undermining the very government, standing on street with placards, demonstrating against the government they work in. Those were the people the Solicitor General referring to, because the question was asked 2 or 3 times and he came back and he made a clarification. So just to say that, of that blanket statement is not true, Mr. Caller. Thank you.
Okay, let me go back. Let me go to the councillor. This whole idea of insulting the president being a crime or insulting, please clarify, and that's part of Mr. Amos George's question. And also, maybe our panelists can help to say, is this a double standard? Because the mayor was not paying taxes or was on a illegal license, and you were operating with him. But now when the deal broke down between the two of you, now you're going after him. So is this a double standard? But let me go to you first, Councillor Jewe, about this whole thing about hate speech or insults.
I don't think the councillor is with us.
The councillor?
I think you muted him. You have muted him.
Line unmuted.
Councillor, is it a crime to curse the president?
Yeah, there is a criminal criminal law that says yes.
Yes.
And yeah, there's a law, the law on official malevolence. Is not only person, it includes saying things that you say, accusing officials, not only the person, officials and the president officials of the government, of any government, of acts that you report that was committed by them and you don't have the proof to establish that, you can be arrested if you went ahead and did that.
So, Councillor, in that case that you just talked about, let's say I decided to write on Facebook, I said, oh, the president is a thief. Are you saying, based on that statement, I can be arrested? And why wouldn't the president sue me for us to go to court, but will use the court to arrest me just because I make a statement? Would it not be that he's taking the law into his own hand or using force?
No, anyone, especially government officials, is the law on official malevolence is that the president, maybe to answer a question clearly, the president, if he said that, the president could decide to take you to court for action or damages for defamation of character.
Yeah.
And that's a civil lawsuit.
Okay.
Or the president could choose that I'm going to use the criminal law against people who call me a thief, under the law of official malevolence, and have them arrested, charged, and have them arrested.
Councillor, where is that law? Councillor, where is that law? I don't even know what to call it. Official malevolence.
It's in the new. It's part of the new penal code. I would need to just research, and I will text the what do you call it? Text the section to you, for you to be able to see that. But it's part of the new penal code, like code of law revised, which is a substantive criminal law. There's a criminal procedural law, and there's a criminal law itself on which you could be charged for, like treason, sedition, incitement. Murder, those are part of the new penal code. Calling a person a thief or calling government official a thief, when you don't have the, you can say that when you have the
you have proof.
When you get arrested, you go to court, you will prove that they are thieves. But the burden will be on you to prove it. Or if they choose to take you to court for, like in the case of Chris Stowe, Dr. Chris Stowe took front page to court in a civil action. And front page was, the officials were not arrested from the start. He wanted, I think, $5 million. It was the failure of front page to identify property to assess for the payment of the $5 million that sent him to prison. And so again, defamation of character. If it is against government officials, they can choose a criminal law. They want to harass you or they want to punish you for being reckless.
Wow, that means a lot of people need to keep their mouth shut. That's why it is. Where is the freedom of speech?
Well, no, it doesn't mean you keep your mouth shut. You can still talk.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Let me bring in a caller on the line. Caller, your name and where you
Yeah, how are you? My name is Ben, and I'm calling from Minnesota. How are you?
Good. Benjamin, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your question or comment, please.
Well, it's a short comment for my question. So, my comment is in regards to the brother who just left the line when he said, why is it that the government had to allow why did they have to probably be in partnership with Costa? And then I want to turn that same question around and say, Costa being the advocate that he is now, he was the one who is leading the liability against corruption. So the same question goes back to that brother. Why should Costa be with such people that are so corrupt? That being said, my question to the councilor is that I heard you when he says that the government will have liability in regards to the bringing into the radio system. But my question is that Costa boys were in the building when they were served, when they were served the road, and they refused to even sign it. And we have all video evidence to close the door. So by that, they were preventing the officers from
Your voice is not really clear.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dennis?
Yeah.
I think the caller is not clear.
One second.
All right.
Hello?
So can
you hear me now?
That you said that was the pinnacle of Liberia, because our audience, they are asking where is that law? So we want to see.
It's a new penal code. I'm using my phone and trying to get there because I'm not in my office.
Because
it's a new penal
code
code
of Liberia. I don't know if it is new or not.
It's got a new.
It's
got a new penal code.
It's approved July 22.
Oh yeah, it's approved.
2008.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When was it approved?
Hello.
Yeah, it was
Can you hear me
approved
now?
2008. Yeah, go ahead, Benjamin.
Yeah. So what I was saying here is that Harold Costa happens to be the one who is pointing out the government faults these days. And my question to the other brother was that why would Harold Costa be with these corrupt government officials? And it has been almost 5 days now since Harold Costa told us that he had a letter. And we all know Harold Costa, when he has something, he goes right ahead and he posts it. So my question to the councilor here is that in as much as the Costa people refuse to have allowed the police officers into the premises, how is it can the police have any liability into such when they were obstructing the rightful search? How?
Thank you, Ben.
Well, let me just answer. Let me answer you. Where a search warrant is being served, the officers are supposed to give notice to the occupants of the premises to be searched, in this case, and give notice of the people who were in contact at Costa radio stations. In the process, the staff of Mr. Costa refused, and the officer broke down the door and entered. The breaking down of the door was only to allow them to enter. They were not supposed to. I don't know whether they destroyed anything. But I'm saying that when you enter, once you break down the door and enter, you are supposed to, in a responsible manner and consistent with law, search for those items, not take them back in a violent manner that you destroy them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dennis, I think we should move to our next topic, the dual citizenship, and continue to make use of the counselor here so that he can give our expert opinion here.
Right. Before we move to that topic, we have our West African correspondent who's going to give us a rundown of what's happening in West Africa. Mr. Edward Amara, he's right there in Freetown. We say welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much. Good evening, all. Sorry for joining too late. I was finding it somehow difficult how to get the link connected. I managed to get. What's happening
in the motherland?
Not too bad, not too bad. We are seeing a lot of things happening in Sierra Leone here, though our political system have been a little bit stable compared to then. But today we had some planning from Freetown. We have the Minister of Economy and Planning Affairs, that is the Kobju Safa, was here. He came to actually see some of the root projects that are going on in the eastern region of Sierra Leone, because when you see Sierra Leone to connect the east to the north is somehow difficult. So they have a kind of Chinese company that they hired. He came to actually observe to see how the root project is going on. Understanding that, I had a rundown of some of the stories that actually took place in Africa. Yesterday we had, it was day before yesterday, the Nobel Peace Prize was given to the Ethiopian Prime Minister by the name of Abiy Ahmed Ali. He's the Ethiopian Prime Minister, and he played greater role in establishing peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea. They fought war in some part of 1993, and communication was even blocked between the two countries, but he came and established that peace. Then also we had another news broke out in Nigeria yesterday when the Ugandan parliament, led by the Uganda parliament, headed by the president over there by the name of President Yoweri Museveni. Museveni forced the parliament to pass a law that they should kill, or all gays should be killed in case somebody like that announced himself to be either a dual sex or want to transfer his sex from male to female. Then yesterday, another interesting news was just closer to Sierra Leone and Liberia, that is Guinea, Conakry. We saw the presidential guide of this man, President Alpha Condé. He ordered them to ensure that whosoever that may come out tomorrow, that is Monday, to protest against the impending referendum that he wants to contest, to ensure that he have another third term in office. So there is that political fever running up in Guinea. Some opposition leaders were arrested yesterday, some were tortured, and some of the soldiers who were asked to join the protest, who refused actually in support of the government, some of them have been arrested. And also, we heard about Luanda. Luanda has launched a kind of smartphone and other motorbikes. I think that is another very good development into Africa. Then today, this evening, in the northern part of Africa, a kind of some political outsider contested the election, but the election has been won by the law professor by the name of Kamis Said. Kamis Said is a law professor who have been outside the political atmosphere of Ethiopia for quite a long time. But since we lost the first ever elected the first president of Ethiopia, Ben Ali, and Ben Ali was stated in 2011 when the Arab uprising started. Now, Kamis Said is a very new professor, came into the political atmosphere of Tunisia. They are hoping that he will come and try to modernize Tunisia and try to ensure that most of the stringent Islamic law may not be likely observed. Then another important development is in 5 African states. We talk about Sudan, Seychelles, Zambia, Lesotho, and Ethiopia. For the first time ever, they have a woman heading the judiciary system. The judiciary system, we have 5 females heading the 5 judiciary system of these countries, and all of them are females. So we are just hoping to see that we'll try to institute certain reforms into the country. Then in East Africa, we had about dozens of soldiers we are killed, of armed policemen we are killed by the Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab is just a kind of Islamic state that is operating in the Central African Republic over there, because they do not have a kind of cordial relationship with Kenya. And Kenya has on several occasions been involved into the political affairs of Somalia. So I think Somalia have been taking Kenya as one of their targets, because they have seen that Kenya want to ensure that Al-Shabaab does not exist into Somalia, and Al-Shabaab are claiming that they want to create an Islamic State union over there. So far, so good. These are some of the high fevers still in bowling in Africa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amara, for that rundown. We really, really appreciate it. And want to thank you. Keep the news coming, and keep us informed on what's going on in the motherland. Thank you so much, and have a pleasant good night.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go back to our guest, and Mr. CA, please introduce our next and final topic.
Thank you, Dennis. To our listeners, we have our second topic here, dual citizenship. The dual citizenship issue has suffered yet again. This time around, there was a proposal that came from the House of Senate. The proposition was voted on for our understanding by a majority of the senators, and sent the lower house for the lower house to concur, so that it can be placed on the ballot next year during the election, so that the Liberian people can have the opportunity to vote on the proposition to decide whether dual citizen should be considered in the Republic of Liberia. And so, as we speak right now, there's also information that the lower house has shut it down, but that still cannot take away the discussion. And so this is our second topic for tonight. With us, we have Wilton Ketter and we have Mr. Edward. Gentlemen, please stop, man. I'm sorry, gentlemen, I'm sorry. We have with us Mr. Atodo to discuss this topic. So, gentlemen, the dual citizenship proposal that we have, it has restriction, and that is what that is causing the argument right now. Some Liberians are saying that the fact that they are natural born Liberians, there should be no restrictions whatsoever. There should be no restriction whatsoever on the dual citizenship, and that they want a clean dual citizenship bill. Other people describe the restriction as being discriminatory. Others describe it as being not reconciliatory. And once you are a natural born Liberian, even though you acquire citizenship in other country, you should still have all the rights as a Liberian citizen. And for your information, and also for the information of our listeners, the restrictions that are outlaid in the proposal are that if you have another citizenship or you hold another passport of another country, you will not be allowed to run for the office of president, vice president, the Senate, and also the House of Representatives. And that you will now also be allowed to be appointed to becoming a minister proper, and also becoming a chief justice. So many people are not happy with this kind of restriction. So that is the topic. We will start with Mr. Wilton Ketter. Wilton, what's your take on the dual citizenship proposal?
Well, I think dual citizenship is important to any country development. The fact that Liberians that live abroad send in a lot of remittances and to help the economy of the country. Liberians that live abroad, most of us have gotten some level of education that can benefit our country. But equally so, Liberians should not just focus on government job. For me, I do not really support Liberians that live abroad to just think that government job is all to it. We should be able to open the private sector as a citizen and not only focus on government job. It is because of government job that people are opposed to this proposal. And for me, I agree with that proposal that said that if you have dual citizenship, you shouldn't hold those positions. And we see that people use, our country to get rich overnight. The government, especially the government, they use the government to get rich overnight. Everybody wants to go into government to enrich themselves, not to even serve. And so I think this will show to Liberians that, look, you can do other things in the country and still be a citizen rather than you go into government job. So government cannot be the highest employer in the country. Liberians are capable of opening private sector. You can be a doctor, you can open your own private practice, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer, and we can do a lot of stuff back home, not to only focus on government. And this is the reason why every now and then we have confusion in our country, because people want to go and become president, they want to become ministers. Why? Because they want to enrich themselves. We saw over the 12 years, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came here and she recruited Liberians to work in her government. They were the same people that went and corrupt the country to the extent where, she taking the blame. So if you are a professional person and you have the money, go in Liberia and invest, open the private sector up and forget about government job. They got competent Liberians within Liberia that know the system, that we can also help to empower them to lead the government. Government should shrink and let us open the private sector. And so if we can do that, the idea of people want to be president and vice president and minister, I think it will erase that. So for me, I agree with that proposal. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people not agree with it, but I agree with that.
Thank you. Mr. Doe.
Thank you so much. Before Thursday hot voting issue, I want to put out there a disclaimer that after we are on this particular issue does not speak for the Union of Liberian Associations in America, that is Secretary General. So I want to put out that disclaimer. Now, I think it is necessary and important that we have dual citizenship when our neighbors, Sierra Leone, for example, have dual citizenship, and Liberia have been founded since 1847, and we know that the first president came from the side, and he was a citizen of the United States of America, and other presidents and other officials, the whole citizenship here in the United States of America. The Alien and Nationality Act was created, was passed in 1973, then amended in 1974 to put some tune on it about non-Negro. But then a certain thing in there that trouble some of us that said that if you are born if you are a Liberian parent, which is the female parent, and you get your child, that child cannot be or a citizen of the Republic of Liberia unless that child denounce it. But here's the situation. There are some, I call it monstrous octopuses that are in the dual citizenship bill. It's causing confusion. Some of us, we are not in the best interest of the country at this time of its economic downfall, and where the country needs its brilliance and professional, skillful Liberians outside Liberia to come in and help up. Yes, it is true. The private sector is open. Liberians abroad can come in and make sure that they level the playing field and contribute towards the private sector. But here is the catch. Government is the highest employer. Government is the higher employer, and all of the laws that are on the books currently should reflect the massive benefit, enjoyment of all Liberians, whether you are in the country or not. It should reflect that. Well, there are laws on the book that we train us, and the recent bill that was passed we went too far to even mention the assistant minister. So yes, yes, it's true, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Jar. Liberians, we want to go home and make businesses. Liberians, in fact, in Liberia now, many Liberians in Liberia now, they didn't even care for government job. They are making businesses, and there are some of them they are doing well. But if you have representatives, you have senators who are taking that they can put in laws that will deprive and disenfranchise natural-born Liberians in the diaspora. That beats my heart a whole lot. It beats my heart a whole lot. Where in fact they know very well the alien and nationality I was lying down there until they came up with this law. But you know, the law have already been passed. Our contention was that the president should veto it. But the law, the president has approved of the law. Now is the time that we are supposed to put our resources together to making sure that we are now going to referendum. And we are not saying now that the law should go to referendum so that we can see that the citizens themselves can test it. I see. We are not talking about President doing the law again. You know,
Mr. Doe, are you saying you are against the restriction or you are for it?
I am against some of the restrictions in there. I'm for some of the restrictions, including the president, vice president, the senate, the senate pro tem, the speaker, justice minister, defense minister, the central bank. Those are foreign ministry. Those are key areas. You know, people with dual citizenship should not hold. Well, you're talking about the director of public operations. So you're talking about a deputy minister.
So you agree?
These are all things that
you agree on minister, deputy minister.
I don't agree on all of the ministers.
Oh, okay.
I don't agree on all of the ministers. I agree on specific ministers or ministers. Minister of Finance and Development, Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Why? Why?
The reason for which the dual citizens when you have dual citizens, that's the thing you are focusing on, because we want to open the public sector. That is why we think that people who are citizenship, Liberian citizenship, living in Liberia should be entitled to those positions.
Okay.
For instance, to be elected officers and elected representative. I mean, you can go, people can elect you, and what you have in the country of residence, you want to change that particular sector or that particular district or whatsoever, you want to making sure that you put some of those things in place so that at least the people can benefit. So if you go to, if I don't want to go to New Town, even though the Honorable Sibo, I want your job, so that I don't want to get clear. If I don't want to go to New Town and say, oh, I want to be representative of the borough of New Town. I want to help my people. I should be given the chance as a natural born Liberian to be given the chance to for my people to elect me. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Doe. I have a call on the line, but first let me go to our West African correspondent who's from Sierra Leone. He's a Liberian Sierra Leonean. So you can just throw light on how is dual citizenship working currently in Sierra Leone.
In Sierra Leone, I don't think whether in Sierra Leone, dual citizenship is not a sensitive issue as compared to that of Liberia. Reason being, Sierra Leone tolerate foreigners coming to help certain important position in the government. Because if you can even watch, the past president, the late former president of Sierra Leone, Ahmed Tijan Kabat, has great link with Guinea. But that issue was not too sensitive because people, as long as there are certain tribes based on their connection. We know Tijan Kaba was a Maningo by tribe, but he was a Sierra Leonean Guinean, but his first parent who came from Sierra Leone, later on he has some connection with Guinea. And even now we have our current vice president, who is Jude. Jude is also a Guinean Sierra Leonean. But we have been able to tolerate circumstances like that because dual citizenship is not too sensitive here. But most of the time, at that local level, when dual citizenship becomes sensitive here, it cannot be limited to the high political area. But when it comes to like local chieftaincy level, people will definitely not allow you to contest because they will go to the extent of trying to vet out wheresoever I hail from and whatsoever thing that we have been doing. Even the last time I stated it on this same program there, when it comes to dual citizenship, they first investigate your background to know your area of origin. That is the first thing, and how contributive have you been to the society. As long as you do not have any criminal record, and they know that one of your parents actually belonging to Sierra Leone, and your education background, one of the major things to get dual citizenship in Sierra Leone, when the education background is very strong, you can easily probe within the system because most people here whom they want to contest election, when the education background is somehow questionable, they have some difficulties, but they watch out your contribution before this time or prior to this time, the time that you want to come into any electionary process. So dual citizenship is not a sensitive thing here too much because we have tried, like let's take an example like the Fulani. Most of them are from Guinea, their roots are from Guinea, and most of them are deeply involved into politics. And most of those Maningos who are living in Australia, most of them are deeply involved into politics. The exception of those two tribes, the other rest are just, we have some people who are living around the border with Guinea and Liberia. They are Kisses, and most of them also are deeply involved into politics in Guinea. So in fact, once ago, we have a honorable who hailed from Kwenu, that is at the eastern part of Sierra Leone, the northeastern part of Sierra Leone, but has deep connection with Guinea. But later on, it was discovered that he's a Guinean, but those issues we are not sensitive because he just seems that somebody developmental oriented. And he has been living into this country for quite a long time. He knows the condition of Sierra Leone. So it's not actually a sensitive issue compared to Liberia. Unfortunately, I have been hearing about Liberia when they have become, my mother is a Liberian, I've been there for quite a long time. Dual citizenship is sensitive, but most of those people who normally get classical position or high, or those who have been getting the most important position into Liberia, they are not typical Liberians, they are dual citizens. So coming to do away with such thing like that in Liberia and see a war of wars coming, not a war of armament, but it will be very difficult for any government to succeed to just make it out like that.
Thank you, Mr. Amarat. Let me bring in a caller on the line. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Oh, good evening, Mr. Jam. I'm here from Minnesota this evening.
Mr. Alexander, the last
name? Can you hear me?
Tota, we can hear you. Go ahead. Okay, Mr. Tota, go ahead. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your question or comment?
Yeah, since we have counselor on the lines, I have one or two questions to ask the counselor. Okay. You know, we talk about freedom of speech and press freedom in Liberia. Yeah, but, you know, I think people are abusing the press freedom. I want to get reference to a statement made by Toshio Henry Costa. A few months ago, Mr. Costa's station was burglarized by unknown persons. And on a show, he made a statement that if the government may attempt to close down a station, he will buy guns and give it to people. Mr. Costa did not stop there. In recent times, when the people from the coal and sheriff from the coal went to a station to do test and see for a station, on a show on the platform, and told the people not to open the door. He said, no, don't open the door. And that's why he told the station manager. I thought, as a law abiding citizen, he will, allow the people to go in if he has anything to go to the court to defend himself. But he did not stop that again. 2 days ago, Mr. Costa made a statement that he will be traveling to Liberia in a few days or a few months. But if he gets to the airport, if the government may attempt to arrest him, that would be the end to the airport, and nobody will leave, and that airport will be damaged. So my point here to the council is, if there's a part of the press freedom or freedom of speech. I don't really know.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
Is this free speech?
Yeah, let me, while you're busy on the dual citizenship, I wanted to find a law that relates to insulting the president or calling him thief or anything else. So this law is found in the new Penal Code section 11.11, A and B. So I wanted the public to get to know that section 11.11, A and B of the new Penal Code that talks about any allegation against a person that could cause your arrest. A and B will spell out very clearly. If you make statement against a president and it doesn't have to be we are. Anyone who is president of Liberia and those statements are not true, and you know that the statements are not true, it constitutes a crime.
Right.
It's criminal. Okay. Let me 11.11 A and B. Now let me answer his question. I said to someone yesterday when they asked me, and I said, I don't know whether Mr. Costa has a lawyer representing him. And if he has a lawyer, is the lawyer concerned about the statements and things that Mr. Costa makes from time to time? Issue like if I get to the airport and I get arrested, they're going to arrest me and the whole airport will no longer be. That in itself is sedition. You're talking about inciting people to burn down the entire outfit, apparently the station, the airport. You can just increase your liability, your criminal liability from one point to another. That's not press freedom. That, in my view, creating a problem for yourself that you could be convicted and sentenced to prison for a long period of time. And you may say it's political when you make such statements. When you make statements like, I'll buy a gun and distribute that to people to protect my station, you also saying you will get involved in armed struggle with the government or with the country. You don't know the extent of that statement. If such warrant or a writ warrant to be served on your office and you told people not to open the door, you just created another situation where the door of that property can be broken down. They will use axe, everything that is necessary to tear the door apart to gain entrance. The officers with such warrant will use the maximum force, proportional and maximum force to get into the premises. And when they get into the premises, people who resist the execution of the warrant can also be arrested. And while the arrest is going on, if you continue to broadcast things that will lead to incitement, will lead to a greater legal problem for you. So all of those things, it's a good thing to be a member of the press. It's a good thing to be broadcasting. It's a good thing to talk about the right to demonstrate, the right to freedom of speech and all of that. But the freedom of speech comes with responsibility. It's not a reckless freedom. If you do things that will cause you to get, to endanger national peace and security, the government, in as much as you may not like it, it may come after you. The other thing I wanted to address lastly is that somebody said, why were the government, I didn't address that, why the government was doing business with Costa when it knew the license expired. In Liberia, radio stations and newspapers, they are licensed for 1 year. At the end of 1 year, before the end of 1 year, they must reapply to renew the license. So if Costa station was not licensed, as the government said, and Costa and others contend that when they went to the Ministry of Information, as well as the Telecommunication Authority, the people have been dragging their feet. At the Telecommunication Authority, the maximum period for review of a licensing application is 3 weeks. If at the end of the day the government was dragging its feet, then you proceed to the Supreme Court on a writ of mandamus. You don't go fight. You have a remedy at law. Proceed to the Supreme Court. Demand that the Ministry of Information, demand that the Telecommunication Authority do their statutory duty. That's what the law provides for. But if you don't do all of those, then you will run into problems.
Thank you, Councillor. Callers, for now, we want you to restrict your question to our dual citizenship topic, the issue of the inclusion on the Root FM. We have dealt with that. We are now on dual citizen. So if you are calling to ask a question or comment, we ask that you stick to the current topic that we are discussing, which is dual citizenship. Let me get to you, Mr. Ketter. You want to speak to the restrictions as outlaid in the proposal. I continue to call it proposal because it's not law yet. You want to speak to that? Do you agree with those restrictions? Do you agree with people who are saying that those restrictions are discriminatory?
I do not agree with people who say those restrictions are discriminatory. I agree with them. I think it's fair. And like I said, we as Liberians that live abroad that have acquired some form of education and even financial stability, we should go and impact our nation by opening our private sector, not to get involved with government. I think Liberians focus on government jobs so much that our country, and it's kind of a backward in development. We got brains in Liberia, but everybody wants to go to work with government, and it's sad. And you can see somebody who did biology want to go work in some ministry. Somebody who did agriculture doesn't want to go into the field, want to go into agriculture ministry to work as a minister. And government, I think what government needs to do is for government to shrink. I think when government shrink, they will also encourage Liberians who are professional people to open up private sector. Our private sector is owned by foreigners, and it's sad. We got competent Liberians and well-established Liberia financially that can open up companies in Liberia. But what are we doing? We only want jobs. And that's the reason why sometimes when I go on my podcast, I ask the opposition, what are they doing? And I just want to throw this in. You don't have to all the time antagonize government to get popular in the country as an opposition. You can start picking up projects around encouraging investors to come in the country. And, you yourself opening some investment that will employ hundreds of thousands of Liberians to work. So that when you go to contest in the election, the people will say, oh, Mr. XY, brought 10 investors or open 10 companies that got over 20,000 Liberians working, and in the interest of Liberia. That's not productive way of doing things. But everybody just want to go into government, and the simple reason is to enrich themselves. That's the shortcut of getting money in Liberia. The shortcut of getting money is to go into government and enrich themselves. That's all.
Wilton, the issue of opposition bringing in investors, I don't think that is a bad idea. The CDC government now, when they were in opposition, did they do that? Do you know of any member of the now ruling party who brought in an investor in the country when they were in opposition?
Unfortunately, I do not know, but I don't think we should do it on the past as a country. I think we should progress. And the fact that maybe CDC didn't do it or when they were in opposition, it should not be the cause for opposition now to not do it. I think if we will want our country to move forward, it's for us to be visionaries, not revolutionaries. You know what I'm saying? It's for us to all put our thinking cap together and see where we can open our country up to provide jobs for the people we call Zogos. You understand? We can't be sitting now criticizing government and saying government is not providing opportunity for the young people. When we become leaders, we too will not be able to provide the opportunity for those people, because now everybody cannot work in government. You understand? So all the it just mere what you call political rhetoric they play every time when they want people to favor them. And so unfortunately, because of the gullibility of our country, the citizen, people try to gravitate to that. But I think it will be wise for opposition leaders who have money to invest in our people, into the private sector.
Thank you, Mr. Ketter. I don't like when people say the Liberian people are gullible. I've not.
The Liberian people are not gullible. Yeah, they are not.
let me go to our Facebook page, and then I will bring on our last caller for the day. Alex Jones is saying, why is so much more effect, time, and money spent on dual citizenship than all of the other issues and laws in the country combined? What about education? You know, is there why we spend all this time on citizenship laws? What's about education? What's about national health care, ethics in government, etc.? Can someone not help Liberia with being a representative or minister? Do you have to be minister or representative before you help? Let me go that to you. Let me throw that to you, Mr. Doe. And after your answer for 1 minute, we'll go to our final call.
You don't have to be, you don't have to be, you don't have to hold government in a government job before you do things in your country. You know, I can remember I was born in Firestone, and most of us that used to live in Firestone are big when they in Firestone, they go to the Booker Washington Institute, or they go to Cardinal University, or they go to one of the top schools. And you know why? They come right back to Firestone to help her. And Firestone employed them. The Firestone used them as a means of expanding, providing some incentives for those who work with the company, with growth in the company. So while people are saying that if it shouldn't go, if Liberians who left Liberia, they should come back to the country and hold government job. If even the president of the country wants to hire some of them, nobody is saying that government jobs are the only thing that Liberian diaspora want. There are many Liberians in Liberia who are doing extremely well. But if the leader of the country knows and want to tap into certain professionalism, professional individual, but especially when the diaspora office in Liberia is recruiting, vetting out professional and skillful Liberians here in the diaspora all over. And then you're going to put a law into a place that will restrain them. Then what's the essence of the diaspora office in Liberia? What's the essence? All right.
Thank you, Mr.
We want to cover the private sector as well. And if the head of the government wants to tap into the professionalism of those people who will be in the database, we want to give in the leverage to tap into them. It is not that people want government. How many persons in Liberia, in front of the diaspora, have gone to Liberia taking government job and they enrich themselves? Only those selfish individuals who are going to do that, you know? So the notion that people are saying that people want government jobs continually, they're saying that, I don't think it is right. But in all, dual citizenship is what matters. And Liberians in the diaspora need dual citizenship. And we are going to the referendum. And I mean, the president already approved it. So what can we do? We want to go to the referendum and make sure that we tell the citizens on the team to make sure they vote. Dual citizenship, everything that in there, we will be having the right to vote. So we can begin
thank you, Mr. Doe.
In the new law.
Thank you. Let me go to my last caller, and then after that, we'll wrap this up. Caller, your name and where you calling from? Caller, are you there?
My name is Hello.
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, you're live.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Dennis. My name is Mazola Gizi. I'm calling from Philadelphia. I want to say hi to my friend and brother, Arthur Weirdo. I know him personally. I'm calling regarding the dual citizenship. I'm one of those persons who 100% support this bill because I feel it is fair, it is necessary at this time, and we need to support it. First of all, the bill gives us the opportunity as Liberians living outside Liberia to become citizens of the country. We are allowed to own land, we are allowed to own properties, we are allowed to pay houses and what have you. Restrictions are given because
to be a citizen of another country. It is just not fair for you to take major responsibilities, like, for instance, becoming a president, minister, you know, all the regulations they have there. I don't want to repeat them. I think they are just so necessary. Now, in my opinion, you are also giving the option as a dual citizen to renounce your citizenship if you want to canvass for any of those positions that have been named. So in other words, if you are a citizen of America or you are a citizen of Liberia, if you have to run for a position of presidency, you have to renounce your citizenship as an American citizen. Fair enough. Another option is this. As a Liberian residing in the United States, you are a green card holder. You have all benefits that citizens of America have, with the exception of voting, getting job, like, for instance, in the security area, immigration, police, etc., etc. There are Liberians here in the diaspora that have green cards. They are not citizens of America. They have the right that they also give them the option that they have the right to give us for any position, or they can be appointed as director of NPA or FPRC, what have you. So, the reason why I'm saying this is that, in my opinion, people who are against this bill, are condemning this bill, claiming it as being discriminatory, are individuals that have political ambitions. I stand corrected. Okay. Because I'm as well as I'm from Lufa County. If I don't want to be a senator of Lufa, or I don't want any governmental job, there's no reason I should be mad, because my citizenship is stay there with me. I can own my land, I can pay my house, I can do anything. But I cannot be an American citizen and then want to be senator for Lufa County or what I do. You know, and then let me also bring to our attention, we always hear that those are in the diaspora, we always post about we are contributing to the economy of Liberia. I agree. Our contribution is indirect. Why do I say that? The money that we are sending to Liberia, we are sending money to our individual families. I've never heard group of Liberians in any part of the diaspora, being in the United States, Canada, or Australia, that they have collected some amount of money and sent it to the government of Liberia for ABCD. I think your guest was telling them that can prove you wrong. I heard, yes.
We send money to build schools, to build road, electricity, libraries, hospitals. So it's not just individual families. So just conclude your statement.
Okay, all right. I might be wrong in that, but I wanted to say that I wanted to give an example, like Sarodius collected money. I think it was like 1 million. What have you? Your correspondent from Australia could confirm that Sarodius in the diaspora collected money for their government and they submitted to the government for diplomatic purposes or what have you. But anyway, you could be right. Maybe some people are spending money that way. I might not be aware. So I correct myself on that. But I want to say that, we need to be fair to ourselves as people in the diaspora, because everything cannot just be about us. We have a lot of advantages over the people that are in Liberia. So we cannot be living here, having all the opportunities and everything, and then maybe perhaps we are tired of residing here, or if something happening where we are no more marketable in the diaspora, then we want to go back to Liberia and look for government job. I just feel that it is not fair, it is not right, and we really need change in our country. And most of those who are in the diaspora, we need to set an example that we really need business instead of us just thinking about ourselves. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. John.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Councillor Joy.
I wanted to say a little bit on the dual citizenship.
Yes, I want you to use that time I want you to use that time to say your final words, and then we can take leave of you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. I think the dual citizenship law as passed is unconstitutional. If it is passed, it's going back to conference. It's not passed yet. So if it gets out of the conference of the House and the Senate, and they do concord. And when the president signed it into law, Liberians who oppose it could proceed to the Supreme Court and file a petition for a writ of prohibition to stop the referendum from taking its course, and to argue whether or not a dual citizenship as subscribed by both the House and the Senate violates the Constitution. If we allow it to go to referendum before you come back and say you want to argue out of the Constitution, it would have passed. And if it passes, it would be a constitutional issue. So not allowing it to go to referendum to be voted for by Liberian people should be stopped by a writ of prohibition. And I want to thank everybody else for paying attention to what we said this evening. I will hope that we all can take the courage to make sure that when issues, particularly technical issues that we had little or no idea about when they come about, we'll be able to contact those people who may be able to speak to them, and we remove the emotionalism from particular legal issue that may impact the security, national security, and peace of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Jiwe. It was our pleasure having you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Now, so we go back and let me go to you, Mr. Soni, so we can conclude this.
Yeah, Dennis, I want us to conclude on this note, and let us all be brave. We've been here for a little over 2 hours now. We have talked about a dual citizenship, and we also talk about the restrictions. What we did not touch on is the clean dual citizenship bill. If there will be any, as others are requesting, or hoping, is there any danger in having a clean dual citizenship bill where, in as much as you are a natural born Liberian, you maintain your Liberian citizenship with all the rights that come along with it? What is the danger in it for which we have to, be talking about restriction? Is there any danger in it? Can we conclude with that?
All right. Go ahead.
So I think our initial concerns were to repeal the Alien and Nationality Act, because we thought that the Alien and Nationality Act was not in the best interest of the Liberian people, most especially the natural born Liberians who whatever reason fled the country, and they held other citizenship, they are holding other citizenship of another country. So that was the concentration of people begin to put some meat into an original plan. That of course will create a pandemonium that is taking up now all over the place, where Liberians in the diaspora, some of them are frustrated, from the initial stage. But again, I think Councillor Jiwe made crystal clear, we rather use those who oppose the bill, rather go to the court, and have a redress from the court, or we stay the course and go to referendum.
Mr. Dope, my question was, is there any danger? Is there any danger in having a clean dual citizenship bill without any restriction?
I don't think there's danger. There is no danger in, it is left with the institution of people who are afraid that when dual citizenship or get to Liberia, what in the private sector said, people who want to exploit the system, they can exploit the system. They don't need to go to government to do that. So there is no danger. It's left with the government to put into place, streamline the various institutions in there, so that people can hold people accountable, responsible for some of these ugly things that have been going on in the country. That's all they need. There's no danger in that,
Mr. Ketter, Mr. Doe just said he does not see any danger in it. And anybody, some people might agree with him because as it is right now, we do not have dual citizenship in Liberia, but there is a fact also that there are some Liberians who have US citizenship, who have gone to Liberia and contested for positions, and they are serving. I mean, there's no any national security threat in that. So if we want to legalize it, why not do it? Because it has been like, we have tried it, you know, or not legally, but we have tried it. I know of a gentleman who said that I am a Liberian with a United States passport. He contested in the election. He stayed around. Nothing has happened. Roman had it that Joe Wiatu, our current president, you know, had U.S. citizenship. I don't know how true it is. Roman also had it that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf had U.S. citizenship. If any of those things are true, and these people have been able to make their way in the public sphere, there's no danger. Why not have a clean dual citizenship? I mean, they still love Liberia, evidenced by their involvement in our politics. Any danger you see there?
Well, I do not believe in speculation. If George Weah or Ellen, I like facts, and if we can prove it, that will be something. But like I said, I think the main issue here is Liberians going back home to open up our private sector. Government should not be the priority where, you know, we have to get a government job to make an impact in our society. Liberians are educated, the Liberians who are educated abroad, who have some financial stability, can improve our society just by investing in the private sector. Then and you know, occupying government position, whether it's deputy minister or director or what have you. So for me, the danger here is people turn to, you know, it's a past history. It's people went to government from here and they just took whatever they could take from Liberia and they came right back and sat here with it. And so I don't think it's something that we should really, you know, try to glorify or condone. I think Liberians should be able to invest in the private sector more than thinking about government. That's a big danger.
If the danger is that one might have the opportunity to steal from government, so you are like, we should place emphasis in the private sector. What stops that person from stealing from the very private sector in Liberia if the person get access to it?
Well, the private sector say if you carry your own investment like you can't steal from yourself. If you went to work for a private entity in Liberia and you stole, the private entity will pursue you with legal law. I mean, let us face the fact, my brother.
Yeah, just as the government will pursue the person too legally.
Well, I mean, we have not seen that in just recent time where we heard the Solicitor General trying to indict people who, I don't know, for one or two reasons, get engaged in investment in Liberia.
And it's not because they have dual nationality or they hold citizenship to other countries. It's the fact that they committed a crime.
Of course, but dual citizenship will play another role because most of them have dual citizenship. Most of them have citizenship of another country, maybe America, because we have not gotten the dual citizenship thing settled yet. So what's going to happen is they will have to go through a whole, say if those people were indicted, now what's going to happen? They have to go through the American embassy to go through the whole process of what the thing when you sign, like when America signed, they got the treaty. I forgot the name, this slipped my mind. Extradition treaty, right? You have to go through the whole thing to extradite this person from here to Liberia to face justice and all that. So I mean, let's just focus on there are other benefits to the dual citizenship law. You can inherit your parents' land. You can invest in farming. You can do a lot of stuff that will bring development to the country. Why own a government job? Why? I don't understand that. And it's simple because we want to enrich ourselves, and government is the easy way to do that.
And Mr. Ketter, you may not understand it because that's where the focus has been. It's been government jobs. So from both sides, like Mr. Doe said, what's about accountability? You know, the last time they said to stop people from running when they are on the job. So they have to you have to resign 2 years prior to announcing your intention to run. You heard about that law. So all the time it looks like we try to find a way around to avoid holding people accountable, right? So whether someone is dual citizen or not, if somebody is on the job and you are required to work 8 hours, if you will use 4 of those 8 hours to go run your campaign, just the fact that you are working, you are not working for 8 hours, you should be punished for that. So it got nothing to do with whether you resign or not. In the same way, I believe people are looking at the dual citizenship in a very narrow way. And we are only thinking about dual citizenship when it comes to America or Europe or the Western world. We are not even focusing on dual citizenship from Guinea, from the neighboring countries. So I think people should take a step back and take a broader look. Right now, our mindset is all on the job, both from the House, from the legislature, and also from people in the diaspora. Most of the time, we in the diaspora think that we have all the good ideas, and when we get there, we're going to make the change, and people there are, so they stand to benefit from us. I think we should open ourselves up and think a little more in a broader sense. Like as Sonny was asking, what's the danger? The only danger there is before you get this passed, you have to go through the legislature, and they are saying we want to do this with restrictions. Now it's a double-edged sword. Do you reject the referendum and it goes to 0, or do you agree and say, well, 1 better than 0? What's the way to go? So I think that's where the real issue is, because you can't pass it in the Senate or in the House of Representatives without restriction, because they are the one we need to go through. So what do we do at this time? I think that's an open question that we all can think about. But I want for us to just conclude on that note and have each of you give us your closing thoughts. Mr. Doe,
Mr. Doe, you go first.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. John. Thank you, CA. I really appreciate you inviting being here tonight on your show, on your platform. I think we have had a very fruitful discussion, and I just want to use this time to call on Liberians to exercise restraint. Liberia is the only country we are depending on. Even when you are a citizen in your passport, it is written there that you are from your country of origin. So Liberia is the only place that we have, and we have to discuss, we have to communicate with one another so that we can save Liberia and save whatsoever thing that we are doing in Liberia for the Liberian people. We are at an advantage, and the Liberian people are at a disadvantage. So we should not, create a scene where we will be creating chaos into the country. So I'm appealing to my fellow Liberians, and I'm appealing to the government to exercise the much necessary restraint as much as possible to save the state from any confusion. We have families there who cannot even afford to eat a day, and depending on most of us in the diaspora. So, Mr. John, thank you so much. And again, I want to thank Councilor Jewel, for coming on here to explain the law. It's very simple. And if only we in the diaspora, we are following the law. We have the opportunity to go to Liberia to follow the law, and Liberia themselves on the ground follow the law. I think we will be on a good footing. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Mr. Doe. Mr. Wilton Ketter, your departing statement, sir.
I would just like to say thanks to the Focus on Liberia family for having me today. I would also like to extend a big thanks and appreciation to the lawyer, the counselor that came and tried to educate our people. I think we should try to learn our laws in the land and not our feelings and about issues, especially legal issues. And I think the peace of Liberia is everyone's responsibility. And I think we should hold that jealously. We should not play with it. We should not even put nobody before our peace. Our peace is very important to us. And I would also like to say thanks to all of the contributors, those people who ask questions and people who kind of disagree on some of the points that we strike. And this is why we are here to disagree to agree, and be safe in what we do, and promote our country image, and stop the incitement of violence and the insult that we hear on social media all the time. So on this note, I would like to say goodbye and God bless us all.
Mr. Ketter, thank you. We are happy to have had you for this length of time. And so, folks in cyberspace, this is how we are about to conclude our broadcast for tonight. I am just a guest co-host here today on Focus on Liberia. Dennis, I think we had a very fruitful conversation. I am so honored that I was brought in to be a guest co-host. I look forward to us doing this again.
I'm delighted. We're all delighted to have you, and we look forward to you returning. Tomorrow, that's Monday, we're going to have Representative Roger Duma from Nimba County District Number 7. He's going to be our guest, and he's going to speak to all these prepositions that are in the House of Representatives and all the different things that are taking place in the House. On Friday, we're going to bring former TRC Commissioner, Ms. Martha Washington, to break down the TRC recommendations for us, especially when it comes to do with war crime court, the dual citizenship, and also this whole idea of Palava Hut method. We often hear like TRC was only for reconciliation, not war crime. So she's going to explain all that to us. So keep tuned and keep it here on Focus on Liberia. Our interest here is to elevate, to promote, and educate all things Liberia. We don't have any side. The only side we have is the Republic of Liberia, the one and only country we love. I want to say once again, thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. I want to thank our other guest, Mr. Councillor Frederick Jewell, for his expose on the law. I want to thank our contributors on Facebook and also through call. I want us to end on this song. We are all Liberians. Embrace one another, Liberia, Liberia. We are one people, Liberia, Liberia. Let reconcile today. Reconciliation, they take it to peace in the country.